Welcome back to another episode. Thank you guys for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, so that means we are bringing you a Week 4 review. I'm going to go over every single game from Thursday to Sunday last week. I have 2 takes from every game, a couple bonuses thrown in there. All of the important information that you guys need to know about what happened over the weekend is right here. Before we get into all that fun and information, please consider dropping a like on the video. It helps me out a ton. And if you wouldn't mind, subscribe to the channel. On my way to my first 500, got a great boost last week. Let's keep up the momentum. As well, thank you guys for all of the engagement last week. A ton of questions were asked, a lot of good conversation. That makes everybody better. I want to help you out. I will get to every question I receive. So do not forget to drop a comment, your thoughts, whatever you want on the video down below. Now let's hop into the review. We're going to start with the Thursday night game. It was a good one between the Bengals and the Dolphins. Big scare, obviously. So first things first, prayers out to Tua and his family. Hope everything is okay with him. Looks like he is going to miss at least this coming week, which is a good thing. Guy needs some rest after a couple hits like that. What we learned from Cincinnati sign is that this offensive line is clearly still trying to figure it out. Now, Joe Mixon was finally able to find the end zone, so that is a great news for owners. He had a ton of touches once again, seems to be a common theme, and he got a bunch of looks inside the 5-yard line this week, which was great to see if you are a Joe Mixon owner. Now, he did not punch any of them in. That's not great. But the looks were there, the opportunities. Eventually, he's going to convert them when that offensive line starts to gel a little bit. I didn't mention him in my Week 3 buy sell. If you can still get him at a discount, which is likely because he only had just north of 15.5 PPR, go ahead and do that. He is a buy low candidate for me. For Miami side of things, the offense here is going to take a hit. I don't think there's any question about that with the move to Teddy Bridgewater. However, let's not panic. I think if you are a Jalen Waddle owner, Tyreek Hill as well, these guys are going to be fine. Their ceilings are capped a little bit, but they will still produce for you. Now on to the Cardinals game. They overpower the Panthers. Run CMC showed us a little something that he is still a viable unit in the passing game, and we needed to see that after the last couple of weeks. And that was very important because it carried his day. He had 27 yards on the ground. Did not do a lot there. He is the only Panthers player that I am locking into my lineups. DJ Moore was actually looked at a little more in this game, but didn't do a whole lot. So he needs to be a risky flex play for us at best. On Arizona's side of it, for Kyler Murray, it was really important, at least for me, for him to pass this test against a really good Panthers defense. He did that. He showed that he's matchup proof, which maybe was in question with some of the games that he had this year. And more importantly, I think it gives us hope in a couple weeks when they get Nuke back, what this offense could quite possibly be. The Falcons were able to outlast the Browns. It wasn't a pretty game, but they did it 23-20. Biggest news coming out of this game is that Cordero Patterson is going to the IR. He had a procedure done on his knee. This opens up the door for Tyler Algier and to a lesser extent, Caleb Huntley. Each of these guys had 10 carries. It's Algier's backfield. He's going to get the first crack at it. He needs to be a waiver priority for you if he's available in your league. The passing game was not there for Atlanta this week. Both Drake London and Kyle Pitts did a whole lot of nada. They combined for 3 catches and 42 yards. It's not going to happen often, I don't think, but this was a tough week for owners, and I took a hit on that one as well. Now, if you did not pay attention to me last week, Jacoby Brissett needs to be in your Superflex considerations. He had another big game here. And Dave Njoku is a solid tight end 1 option on the back end. He had a decent day as well. I think he had 7 catches for 74 yards. The Cowboys absolutely crushed the Commanders. Washington's offense looked putrid. That is going to happen once in a while when you have Carson Wentz at the helm. I don't know if Antonio Gibson's job is safe after the way that he played. Once again, not efficient. Brian Robinson is going to be coming back sooner rather than later. He was activated off the NFI list. He is going to practice on Wednesday. It's risky to start a lot of these Commanders receivers week in and week out because this can happen. And also there's a lot of them vying for targets. I think Robinson is an awesome add if he is available on your wire. CeeDee Lamb is the only Cowboy that you're starting week in and week out. If that was a question before, it is not now, at least until Dak Prescott gets back. Dallas did just enough to hang in there. They didn't need to do a whole lot on offense with their defense dominating. CeeDee Lamb was great once again, but outside of that, Ezekiel Elliott, inefficient. He had one 30-yard catch, which made him look decent. He was not. Tony Pollard took a step backward, which I was not expecting. So Dallas, we're keeping on the bench more often than not, unless we are desperate. The Seahawks win in a shootout with the Lions. This was a lot of fun to watch if you were able to. The Lions offense continues to impress me. They didn't have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They didn't have DeAndre Swift, and it didn't matter. They still put up a 40-piece. That's that offensive line, guys. It is excellent. It opens up holes. We saw Williams absolutely crush this week with 100+ and 2 scores. As long as Goff has a little bit of time, he's going to be accurate more times than not. And once again, he was here. The biggest beneficiary was T.J. Hawkinson. 179 yards, 2 scores, 2-point conversion. He went for 35+ in most leagues. I think that this buys him a little bigger slice of the pie moving forward in this offense after seeing how effective it was. Awesome to see that he can still have a boom game as the focal point of an offense when other key players are missing. We said this last week, you start your playmakers against Detroit. It rang true here. Everybody on Seattle had a day. Metcalf had a monster game here. And then Rashad Penny exploding onto the scene, his first really big game in 2022. Great to see him break out a little bit, separate himself from Ken Walker. Against a soft defense, Seattle's going to be playable, but I am not overbuying this. There are still going to be plenty of weeks where the Seahawks face above average defenses and absolutely tank, so let's not overreact to one blip on the radar. The Titans were able to bully the Colts, come out on top. It looks like King Henry might be back. Now, I have been a proponent against him pretty much all offseason. He did look good in this one, and I will be glad to admit it. Over 100 yards. He averaged over 5 yards a carry. Not sure when the last time he did that was, but it seemed like it'd been a while. Titans were able to play the brand of ball that they wanted. They looked pretty good doing it. On the other end, the Colts did not look so hot once again. Let down week after that big upset over the Chiefs last week. Now, Jonathan Taylor seems like he's going to be okay. The initial tests were negative on his ankle. Great sign. As of this recording, he does have a chance to play Thursday. Might be a little quick because of the short turnaround, but nothing serious that we know of yet, so we dodged a bullet with that. Nyheim Hines likely to get a boost this coming week, regardless of if JT plays or not. Now, the other thing I noticed is that while Matt Ryan gets more comfortable in this offense week in and week out, and when he has his healthy players and playmakers available, he's willing to spread the ball out. He did it here in a big way. So Michael Pittman might not be the alpha target hog every week that we all assumed that he was going to be. I still think it's a blip on the radar and it's not something to worry about, but just know there are going to be weeks where Pittman might not get a full meal. The Giants tamed the Bears. All about Saquon Barkley here. 33 touches in this game. 162 yards of total offense. No Giants receiver in this game had more than 3 catches. I believe the wide receivers combined for 25 yards on 3 catches for the day. It's Saquon from start to finish as this offense. He's going to be a top 5 play every single week as long as he is healthy. And on the other end, it was not the monster game that we were hoping for, but Khalil Herbert did look pretty solid in this one. He had 20 touches with Monty missing. Now, I'm not sure what more we could have really asked for from him, to be honest, because of how poorly this Bears offense has been and looked again in this one. You kind of got to take what you can get and hope he falls into the end zone. He wasn't able to do that, so still a decent day from him. The Eagles were in a tough one. They battled the Jags back and forth all day. They were able to hold them off. Jalen Hurts, for the first time this year, showed that he's a human being. So that was interesting to see. I think that says more, though, about the Jaguars' defense than it really does anything that's wrong with Jalen Hurts. Miles Sanders, the guy, The dude, numero uno in Philly. Great to see the looks he got in this game. 27 carries, gotta be a career high. Not an official stat, but I'm just assuming. He had 29 touches overall, 156 yards, 2 total scores, had himself a day. Depending on the matchup, and maybe not depending on the matchup with how this Eagles offense is looking, he's gonna be a top 15 play at the position every week. On the other backfield side of things, a little bit of interesting development here. Travis Etienne saw the exact same amount of carries as James Robinson did. He also had one more touch because he was the only back to receive a target. Now, I don't think that this is a full change yet, but it might be the first step in the evolution to moving more towards Travis Etienne. So we have to keep an eye on that for Jacksonville. The Jets, they were able to upset the Steelers in a very tight game. It was back and forth. Turnovers everywhere. Mitchell Trubisky's benching opens up the door here for George Pickens, who seemed to have a really good connection with new QB1, Kenny Pickett. It is just one game, so we're not going to overreact, but I think that Pickens now needs to be rostered in all leagues. Wait and see what happens with him. Might end up doing you good in a couple of weeks. Deontay Johnson owners gotta be feeling a little bit of the pain right now. I am one of them. I am with you. He was about an inch in this game, maybe a half of an inch, from a 30-yard touchdown catch in the back of the end zone. Last week, 35-yard plus bomb dropped. Would have been a score most likely. 20 points between those two plays. We're looking at DJ a couple completely different ways. So let's not panic on him. The looks are there. The opportunities are there. He will capitalize on them. I talked about the Breece Hall breakout coming. We saw a mini version this week. 80 total yards of offense. He had a touchdown as well. You could probably still get him for a decent price because he's just on that borderline of breakout. He's Damian Pierce it this week. So buy him still semi-low if you can. The Bills win in an awesome comeback against Baltimore. The Ravens, for the second time in 3 weeks, crumble in the second half. The weather did play a key role in this game. I was all about offensive playmakers on both sides. It was a little mucky in there, and that definitely slowed down the pace of the game. The big plays were not there as I expected because the field conditions were far from ideal on top of all of that. Something we discovered is that Gabe Davis looks more and more like a boom-bust flex play right now than he does a wide receiver 2 with a decent floor. He's gonna boom in some games, but he's also gonna have games like this where he just did not get targeted and ends up hurting you. So we need to take that into consideration when we move forward. Always that upside in this offense. Gonna be weeks where he doesn't get looked at. J.K. Dobbins. Been harping on this man. It came. Season has begun. Hopefully you listened in bottom low a couple weeks ago when I mentioned him, and you can reap the rewards now. He had a pair of scores, looked pretty solid in only his second game back. He's gonna have those weeks where Lamar Jackson steals a touchdown in close, but he's also going to be heavily involved. He does exactly what the Ravens want to do on offense, run the ball. He showed some ability to catch it out of the backfield as well. His stock is only going to continue to rise. And a final thought that I just have to add, because as I'm watching it, I am pulling my hair out. John Harbaugh, when you are tied in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes to go in the game, you take the points. No reason for him to go for it on fourth down there. Absolutely atrocious game management by him. Moving on. Chargers are able to jolt the Texans 34-24. Now, it wasn't as big as a blowout as I would have expected, but the Chargers were able to get back on track, and I guess that is what matters. The much overdue touchdown regression from Austin Eckler finally came full circle. He had 3 scores in this game, and good news for owners, he did a little bit of work on the ground as well. 60 yards there, 49 yards total. Monster day from him. And good to see him actually get positive yardage on the ground after really struggling mightily over the first 3 weeks. Backfield as well for the other side. It was Damian Pierce's breakout party. He had an absolutely giant day. That 75-yard run as well only added to it. He was the only Texans back to get a touch in the backfield. And then he also caught 6 balls, which was great to see. Didn't do a lot with them, but it's awesome that they are actually targeting him out of the backfield as well. I don't know if it's sustainable in this offense. Houston is 0-3-1. Probably not going to be in a bunch of tight games where they can afford to run the ball as much. He might be a sell high candidate. As I do more research, we will talk about that likely at the end of the week. Now the Packers, in a tight one, barely squeaked it out against the Patriots. I was really hoping that I got to talk about how the Packers bombed it against Bailey Zapp, because that would have been great. But they are able to win it in overtime. Once again, in the backfield for New England, both of these backs pretty much did work, and a 50-50 split as usual. Now this week it was Harris with the touchdown, and the receiving work went to Ramondre Stevenson. Each of these guys still going to be a weekly flex option for me because we don't know week in or week out who is it going to be. We're leaning Harris for now. On the other side, it is still Aaron Jones as the 1A over A.J. Dillon. Jones had 2 more touches, and he had the only work in the receiving game in this one. But the biggest thing was his production. 16 carries, over 100 yards. He averaged nearly 7 yards a carry in this game. Great to see if you are an Aaron Jones owner. And then finally in the receiver room, because we're still paying attention to that in Green Bay, Allen Lazard and the battle with Romeo Doubs continues for that wide receiver 1 role. Now Lazard had another solid game, put up over 100 yards, but it was Doubs who scored, and they went to in the clutch when they needed points. I think each of these guys can be considered flexes depending on the matchup, but the Green Bay Packers want to run the ball. Their offense runs through it. Safer more weeks than not to leave these guys on the bench until one of them separates himself from the pack. The Raiders were able to outlast the Broncos and also dropped a 30 bomb on them, which was a little surprising for me to see. But what was not surprising is that our faith in Russell Wilson paid off. He rebounded with a solid performance, and he even helped us out a little bit on the ground as well with 3 total scores. We can let him stay on that low-end QB1 radar for now. For the Broncos side of things in the backfield, really bad news about Javonte Williams. Looks like he is out for the season, so prayers out to him and his family. He had a torn ACL and a torn LCL. With this, though, we know that Melvin Gordon's stock is going to the moon, and Mike Boone now needs to be added in basically all leagues because he is going to be the new RB2 there. He is going to get a decent amount of work. We've seen how much the Broncos like to run the football. And the other important piece of this is that Melvin Gordon has 4 fumbles on the year already. Not only that, the fumble in this game against the Raiders was returned 68 yards for the score. It was a critical moment in the game. So something happens with Melvin Gordon and he can't be trusted. All of a sudden, it is Mike Boone who is a bane in fantasy. So add him in case anything like that should occur. He could be a lottery ticket nobody thinks about, but in 3 weeks pays off big time. Got to talk about the backfield as well for the Raiders because Josh Jacobs had himself a day. He had 144 yards on 28 carries, and Zamir White, preseason darling, had only 2 of them. So this is his backfield. Clearly, that front 7 for Denver, I thought were going to stand up a heck of a lot better. They were unable to. If the Raiders can continue to look this potent on offense, Jacobs is going to be a very valuable piece moving forward. To the Sunday night game, Chiefs, Bucks. This was a letdown for me first and foremost because I thought it was going to be a close game. I thought we were going to go down to the wire. Chiefs made sure that that was not going to be a thing. Everybody got a piece for Kansas City. The offense looked unstoppable even against that really supposedly tough Tampa Bay front 7. CEH continues to find the end zone. So we maybe have to stop here and think. He got 20 touches in this game as Kansas City was milking their big lead. I'm not going to fully say that I'm wrong yet, but when you're getting those looks, maybe what he is doing to an extent is sustainable. He's not going to score every week, but if he's getting 20 touches for Kansas City and their offense looks this good, it's hard to sell him unless you are getting a really good price at this point if you've held on to him. Now, it may have been garbage time for almost the entire game for Tom Brady, and I do understand that. But it was still awesome to see that he is capable of putting up a half-decent performance. Now, this was a great game from him, but he had duds, basically, over the first 3 weeks. So with that healthy group of pass catchers, Tom Brady is going to be just fine. They're probably not going to throw it 52 times every single week. They ran only 6 times in this game because they were behind from the get-go, but it was still good to see. Now we get to the last game. Had to save the best for last. And it was actually the first game on Sunday in London. My Minnesota Vikings taking out the New Orleans Saints 28-25. This was an awesome way to start the day, especially for me, to start the day off with a 61-yard field goal that hit not once, but twice off the post. Looked like it actually hit the back end of the crossbar, bounced out and missed by about a foot. I was going absolutely bananas. Vikings are 3-1. Felt good. To the game though, because I do have to talk about that. Dalvin Cook looked just okay, and I kind of expected that against the New Orleans defense. They're really stout up front. They showed it in this game. Bigger story though was Justin Jefferson absolutely destroying Marshawn Lattimore. They were pretty much one-on-one the entire game. That's what the Saints decided to do. Can't really blame him because Lattimore had been dominating his matchups all year. I think he gave up 5 total catches. In this game though, Justin Jefferson, 10 catches, 147 yards, and I think all but 1 or 2 of those catches came in coverage against Lattimore. So to see Jefferson dominate one of the best corners in the league like that was a little bit eye-opening. On the other side for wide receivers, we're looking at Chris Olave, who had another good game here. He led the team in targets for the 3rd straight week. He got 7 in this one. He caught a big one towards the end of the game to give the Saints a chance at that tying field goal. Over the last 3 weeks, 294 yards, a score, and he's getting over 11 targets per game. He has got to be considered easily as a flex, and he's borderline on wide receiver 2, especially if he continues to get all of these looks. The other important development was in the backfield for New Orleans. With Alvin Kamara out, it was Mark Ingram who got the start. Now he got banged up, and in came Latavius Murray, who had the best game out of all of the backs here. I think what this does is muddle up the running back room. Should Alvin Kamara miss time anymore, we probably, or at least think, it is going to be Mark Ingram, but Latavius Murray outperformed him in this game. So we might not have that clear-cut running back 2 slide in for Kamara should an injury occur for the future, and that's just something that we need to understand and realize in case it happens moving forward. And that is all she wrote for the video. Hope that there was plenty of information you guys were able to take from this, learn from it, and then make better decisions for next week. We can always grow, get better, and improve. That's the goal at Relentless Press. If you guys have any questions about any trades, if you are looking or trying to decide between start sits, drop those all down below. I would love to be able to help you out with them. Do not forget, if you enjoyed the content, crush that like button for me. It helps me out a ton. And then drop a subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing. Relentless Press is dropping between 10 and 12 videos every single week. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, you are going to miss out on some of the great content that I have. I drop it Monday to Saturday, 12 p.m. Pacific on the dot, so that you know when that is coming. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and we will see you next time.